The first battle of the Civil War was the Battle of Fort Sumter. It occurred in South Carolina in the middle of Charleston Harbor. After South Carolina seceded from the United States, Major Robert Anderson moved his force of 85 men to the more defendable location of Fort Sumter. 11th, 1861, Confederate Brigadier General Beauregard demanded the fort surrender. His demands were eventually denied. The next morning, at 4:30 a.m., Confederate cannons began a 34-hour barrage. The Union soldiers fired back, but at considerably less volume due to their lack of supplies. On April 13th, Anderson finally surrendered to the Confederates. Shockingly, no soldiers were killed during the battle. The first Battle of Bull Run was fought in Virginia just a few miles away from Washington, D.C. on July 21, 1861. The battle began when a force of 34,000 Union troops marched from Washington to attack about 20,000 Confederate troops positioned along a small river named Bull Run. Although Union soldiers made small advances, Confederate reinforcements succeeded in breaking up Union positions. Successful Confederate cavalry maneuvers also aided in forcing the Union to retreat back to Washington. This battle opened up the eyes of many Northerners, allowing them to see that this war couldn't be won overnight.
In the Battle of Bull Run II, also called Manassas II, there were 70,000 Union soldiers and 55,000 Confederate soldiers, with the total estimated casualties being at 22,177. The commander for the Union was John Pope, and the Confederate commander was Robert E. Lee. General Stonewall Jackson was sent to this battle and did what he was known to do. That was be a line. All through the day of August 29th, Union forces attacked Jackson's line. The Union actually punctured the line several times, but each time they were just pushed back. On August 30th, Pope thought the Confederacy had retreated, so he advanced. Well, he found out he was wrong when he ran to Jackson's line, still hunkered down in the same place. The Confederates repulsed the attack and launched a counterattack. Though outnumbered, the Confederates managed to get the victory. In the Battle of Antietam, there were 87,000 Union soldiers and 45,000 Confederate soldiers, with a total of estimated casualties being 22,717. The commander for the Union was George B. McClellan, and the commander for the Confederates was Robert E. Lee. Antietam took place on September 16, 1862, and was the bloodiest battle of the Civil War. This was the battle Stonewall Jackson got his name. Despite the Union's huge numerical advantage, the Confederate troops were able to keep the result inconclusive. In Chancellorsville, there was 97,382 Union soldiers and 57,352 Confederate soldiers, with a total of estimated casualties being 30,764. The battle took place April 30th through May 6, 1863. The commander for the Union was Joseph Hooker, and the commander for the Confederates was Robert E. Lee. This would be General Stonewall Jackson's last battle. He would not be killed by the hands of a Union soldier, instead killed by the hands of his own men. Though being outnumbered, the Confederacy took the victory.
It was an overwhelming Confederate failure resulting in many casualties. Over 51,000 soldiers from both sides were killed, wounded, captured, or missing over the three-day battle. The Battle of Gettysburg was a series of three battles that occurred over 3 days, July 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. On the first day of the battle, the Confederate Army of Northern Virginia and the Union Army of the Potomac collided west and north of Gettysburg. This resulted in around 30,000 Confederate soldiers defeating about 20,000 Union soldiers. The remaining Union forces fell back to the hills south of the town. On the second day of the battle, the Union successfully defended those hills from the Confederate advances. The third day of the battle is where the fighting really kicked off. Small clashes continued on the hills, but the major event was a Confederate-led charge of 12,000 soldiers against the Union center line. This is called Pickett's Charge.
In Appomattox Courthouse, the Confederacy was actually winning the battle, but Union infantry showed up, and the Confederates flew their peace flags between 10 a.m. and 11 a.m.